Hello, everybody, and welcome to Narativ. Air Force One touched down at Andrews Air Force Base under the cover of darkness. It was highly unusual for the president-elect to be using Air Force One before the official swearing in. But these were not normal times. Just hours earlier, we learned that the inauguration would take place indoors and that the president's motorcade would be equipped with anti-drone technology. When America's leaders gathered inside the Capitol's rotunda rather than outside on the mall, it was very apparent that something very strange was happening. We saw it unfold before our eyes. Tech billionaires assembled in the front row. TikTok's CEO positioned prominently next to Tulsi Gabbard, the nominee for Director of Intelligence. Tonight on Narativ, I'm joined by Dean Blundell. There are some clues as to what happened. And amongst the chief clues is an actual threat, numerous threats that came from Russia itself. Putin's deputy, Patrushev, out of the limelight for a couple of years, used to head up the Security Council in Russia. In recent years, he's been a lot quieter. Now he's reemerged, criticizing the Romanian elections and threatening Moldova. He said President Trump really needs to watch where he'll be alive during the inauguration and after it. That was a very open, credible threat from the Russian leadership. These guys were best friends the first time around. They were dating, Putin and Trump headed out in Helsinki. They looked like they were having he was like an S&M slave to the guy. What happened now? In the last month or so, there's been attempts at having a negotiation with the Russians in order to do that day one promise that Donald Trump had promised that there would be a deal in Ukraine that Putin would let him do. They couldn't reach a deal because China, with the cooperation of the United States, it seems, squeezed out Russia. It made it impossible for Russia to actually come to terms with the United States in a way that would work for them. And so in an odd, strange way, Trump becomes president because China and the United States collaborate to get rid of Russia.
Is that the narrative, or is this just one of the theories going around? Russia's not happy with Trump, not reciprocating Putin's love notes in the news. Trump's not reciprocating. This is a part of the story we're going to talk about today. An openly understood relationship now between the United States and China. That fascinates me. As we look through the wreckage of where we're at geopolitically, you can never trust anybody. World War II, America was like, we really got to go to battle with Russia? We hate Russia. And Russia's like, let's go. They became fast friends until after, when they didn't leave Poland and Churchill lost his mind. Nobody had anything to do with Russia after that. They've been on their own since. I find that narrative of China, the United States squeezing Russia while Russia is sending up these smoke screens with comments from Putin and RT talking about how Trump has to pay them back. We all know Russia was involved. Russia's involved in North America intrinsically. I find that part of this narrative geopolitically.
I'll tell you why I think it is the case. Trump has said there is no deal with Putin right now. Putin's not interested in negotiating, but there is no current negotiation going on with Russia about Ukraine. He said it yesterday.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, who I still think is, if this lands up being true, this is one of the most incredible master moves of jiu-jitsu diplomacy that anyone has ever done in any political setting. He has been able to maneuver China away from Russia. And in doing so, he's able to win the war through diplomacy and economic sanctions. Vladimir Zelensky came to see Biden towards the end of last year with the final plan to end the war in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And that plan involved stopping Russia from selling on black markets, India to China to other places. And then there was these unusual meetings between Biden and Modi. And I believe there was another meeting with Xi. In those settings, Biden said, we all don't like Putin. He is a monster. We could get rid of him. We can take whatever's left of Russia. Let's just stop buying his oil. Xi, you need a lot of food from us. You're running out of space to grow food for your people. So we're going to sort that out. But that is why we saw Obama and Trump look so cozy at that Carter funeral. At least I'm guessing that. These two hate each other. And suddenly they're buddy-buddy. Yeah. And everyone's okay with him, except Hillary and Kamala. But everyone was like, hey, welcome to the club. That's not the scenario people were painting about him. At the inauguration, they were giving away things to him. There was a rewarding environment. I'm not saying that people love him and accept everybody's policies, but this was a deal. And for Biden, what a good deal. He walks away, gets a great legacy. Putin's done, which is what he wanted.
One was how fast Syria fell. Do you remember that? Syria immediately, the war in Russia, Ukraine, Russia's getting their asses kicked. Trump's coming in. They know he's coming in. And within a week, Syria falls. It becomes a democratic country with the help of England, the United States, with the help of
Turkey.
Former ISIS leaders, with the help of Turkey, with the help of a bunch of different countries that you think were, stand against each other. They got together and let's get Russia out of Syria first, right? Ukraine was involved in that. They had master drone operators over there helping take out Assad's forces. Assad goes to Russia. So that is one of the key strokes that I think is interesting if we're going to have this conversation. Weakened militarily, he can no longer get to Tartus. He can no longer put a boat anywhere in the Mediterranean, anywhere in the Middle East. He has to leave in the cover of night. Now he's weakened in Africa, right? So all the natural resources he's been plundering from Africa, gold or silver, whether it be lithium, whatever he needs, nickel, whatever, uranium. So really, really devastating turn of events prior to the inauguration and the election. So Biden's involved in that. Then they had these sanctions slapped on them, some of the harshest energy sanctions, because Russia was allowed to squeeze a little oil out of the country and give to other countries like Modi, India, China, and they were doing business with them. North Korea is still doing business because they'll do business with anybody. The interesting part to me was about 2 weeks ago, prior to the inauguration, there were stories about Russian oil tankers adrift in the Mediterranean after leaving Syria. Then stories about China telling 3 Russian oil ships, we can't take your oil anymore. Same thing with Turkey.
Deal.
That's a huge tell. And we're only privy to the stuff that we read in the news. And of course, they're not going to share that information with anybody. And then, I don't know if you saw this, Inauguration Day, the vice president of China, can't remember the dude's name. He shows up to the inauguration. He's like, how you guys doing? Great to be here. Nice to do business with you. Then he sits down with Elon Musk in a really awkward photo op yesterday, the day after Elon's on stage. Russia's now sending up these flares. I have no doubt in my mind that behind the scenes between Biden, the incoming Trump administration, you still have a bunch of war hawks. Russia's been our mortal enemy for a long time. They're tired of Russian interference. I wouldn't doubt it that someone kind of went up to Trump and said, hey, listen, this is your golden opportunity. Fuck the tariffs in Canada and Mexico and forget Panama. This is your golden opportunity to become a world leader, the guy that takes out Russia.
The appeal to him is great because China's much bigger wallets to pay him. And I think that is how they were able to push back on any deal. He is insisting he wants to keep this land that he's now taken over in Ukraine. And both China and I think America was saying, no, sorry, you got to give it back. But now he finds himself in economic despair because sanctions are biting. He's got a 20-something% a month, the inflation now going on there. It's not a good look.
Their foreign wealth fund is gone,
it's gone,
by the way.
Completely.
The rubles crushed.
1 million soldiers are dead. He's trying to threaten other countries. He's trying to go after Romania. The world hates Russia and Russians. Threatening war with Germany. What is this? People are not interested in this scenario he's painting. And I think that in a strategically smart move, Biden probably made this call. It's worrying. China is now sitting in the White House. One really has to understand.
TikTok comes back and America's like, we'll own it 50%.
TikTok is spying on people. It's a spying vehicle. It is designed to listen to everything you're saying, analyze it, and know who your family is, and knows what they're watching, and influence them, and knows what you're buying for dinner, and with your dog's named, Boomer or whatever. And so they know so much about you.
Continue.
So now you're not going to have America invested in this TikTok, which is going to be spying on Americans for the Chinese. It sounds terrifying, except it already happens. They're listening to everything we're doing. The social media companies know everything. If the government knows everything now, is that a terrible thing? Or is it just a reality that we now live in a data age?
Dude, and that's the thing, right? Like, if you're America and you're like, okay, we need to save democracy somehow. Who do we team up with? Well, Russia, no, they don't have anything. They're a third world country. China, probably because they own much of our infrastructure. They do. They're a creditor nation to the United States. Who knows how long they've been putting infrastructure into cell towers in the United States, here in Canada. TikTok's not going anywhere. It's a multi tens of billions of dollar industry and data collection, like a fire hose for China.
Salt Typhoon was the name of the operation that China used against the United States during the election to spy on literally every politician in Washington, D.C. Everyone's phone numbers, call messages, texts, everything. They rigged the election. But I guess they're forgiven. These next 4 years, they'll be forgiven. I guess they made some sort of deal.
I don't doubt that they did. It's unthinkable to think that China, after all the rhetoric, is in the White House right now. China, they've got work camps for Uyghurs, for Muslims. But you look at a guy like Donald Trump, it's an easy sell for him because he can see how powerful Xi is. That's what he really likes. He likes the fact that he can control his people. So if Biden was involved in selling that to the Trump administration by way of saying, let's do a partnership deal, let's get rid of Putin, decimate Russia. China is an empirical state. They border Russia. They want part of that territory, as does India or Ukraine. You've got NATO countries interested in not living next to Russia. So you talk about the business interests, you talk about the information space, the fact that TikTok's not going anywhere, and it is of extreme use to any government. And if you can do a deal with China, you're going to do that deal. Well, TikTok was banned for what? It was public enemy number one for 4 years. They banned it. They banned it for one day. Trump brought it back. People are like, oh, he's going to enrich himself. And he will. But there's something deeper at play. Weakened Russia's state, communiques with countries trying to do business with Russia. Modi was a big fan of Putin until about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Xi was helping Putin until about 3 months ago. And both countries have since turned on him. America now has the upper hand, as do these Western countries, even though we're going through this Trump administration. I think it's a stroke of genius if Biden was involved.
I've followed this guy so closely, and I know people in the administration, and I know exactly how he thinks. I think this is exactly the kind of diplomatic jiu-jitsu he does, where the whole world gets rearranged. Suddenly no one knows it. The future is all about AI. China and the United States have active data competition happening right now. Whoever controls AI does control the world, and how AI is done is very important. China has been doing its own thing, being authoritarian. The United States has been under Biden trying to do this more ethical, safer route to AI. It's been making us a little bit slower because it's been regulated, and we've had people in the government wanting to know all the advancements that each AI company is doing all the time. All of that reporting is onerous. These guys in Silicon Valley say it's not great. The future AI is going to be self-regulated by Bezos and Zuckerberg and Musk. I don't think that makes me feel good at all. And the idea of an ethical AI is certainly wonderful. But there is this understanding now amongst all the AI people that there is going to be a different approach to AI, open and democratic, like America is, dedicated to free speech and enterprise, where the AI in China might be more authoritarian, dictatorial. They'll two will compete in the marketplace, and we'll see who wins.
The announcement we missed yesterday was a Project Stargate announcement. Trump effectively said, we've got $500 billion we're going to sink into making the United States the home of artificial intelligence. We're going to build data centers. They've been purchasing, believe it or not, nuclear reactors that are offline, so they can power these AI systems. Bill Gates bought 3 Mile Island to power Microsoft's AI systems. I don't think people understand the importance of what AI is going to be or do. Do you trust Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg? I don't trust Elon Musk as far as I can throw him. No. He's the only guy that said anything negative about this Stargate announcement. He said SoftBank doesn't have any money. They don't have any money. This is never going to happen.
I don't think this guy survives. I don't see him surviving because he trolled America into a completely illegitimate election. There's not a lot of people who think he's a good guy. Even Steve Bannon thinks he's an asshole. And the salutes, I don't, call it what you will, but it's a stick. I mean,
what'd you make of it? Look, Zev, you're from South Africa. Yeah. You understand this man's mentality. You know he's a white supremacist. You know David Sachs is a white supremacist. You know these guys are apartheid lovers. You know that Elon Musk's grandparents were members of the Canadian Nazi Party. Canada, because it's not Nazi enough for us. Let's go to South Africa. What do they got? Apartheid. Oh, that feels pretty Nazi and white supremacist. Let's go there. And he was heavily, on his mom's side, May Musk, heavily influenced by his mother's parents, his grandparents, and still very much so shares the same reading texts, favorite books as his grandfather, Josh Haldeman. He was a technocrat, just terrible people that thought the white race was the race. So we know he's a white supremacist. But is there any other way you can explain the salute that he gave on stage after the inauguration, other than a Nazi salute? Romans?
I think what it is, it's an attempt to troll America. It's an attempt to consume another 48 hours of social media space about whether this was a Nazi salute or not, and about is he a Nazi or isn't a Nazi. And, he may not be a Nazi because, I don't know, Nazis may mean one thing to another thing. But I can tell you something. This guy is a product of apartheid South Africa. He is as true a racist as any leader of the apartheid government. He believes what he wants about Jews or thinks white supremacy is the way to go. I don't know. But certainly the white supremacy thing in an apartheid context, which I grew up in, this is what this guy's all about. This is the family. This is the parents. They're nice kids here. This is May. They would be explorers. They flew around in this red plane looking for the lost Kalahari Desert city. They came from Canada where they were arrested for supporting the Nazi party in Canada and opposing Canada's efforts in the war. So they were arrested and had to find another place to settle. And they chose sunny apartheid South Africa because he said it publicly in a newspaper article. He said, hey, I am happy to come here because this is the place I choose to settle because of what the National Party is doing in South Africa with apartheid. So he's all in on apartheid, like in a very serious way. He also did support the Nazis during the war. Now, Elon Musk wasn't even thought at the time. Of course, he wasn't even born, but they sound a lot alike. They both have these weird anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that keep floating out. They have this sense of the people needing to be technocrats.
Technocratic. There we go. Technocratic. Relating or characterized with the government control of society or industry by an elite technical expert, right? So technocrats. That's when experts, and very few of them, decide what's good for everybody else. Elon Musk's entire MO is, he said, civilized society should be governed by men with extreme experience and extreme wealth.
The thing about technocrats is they believe that skilled engineers and workers in the technical professions should be running everything because then it's easy to understand and efficient. I don't know.
It doesn't sound like a terrible idea. It's just when the power is in the hands of few experts as opposed to power being shared by people who are experts in other regions, like an expert in human rights. They want to shut those people out. They think people with technical expertise and monetary expertise and military expertise need to be the ones that govern the people, and very few of them, because you need to keep those people in line. If you look at China, that's exactly what China is. There's great affinity that Elon Musk has for China. He's got deep financial relationships with China. A lot of his Teslas are made in China. It's almost like a match made in heaven, to your point. But this is what Josh Haldeman, Elon Musk's technocratic grandfather, talked about. These people have to be white. Right? This is why he went to South Africa after he got arrested in Canada for supporting the Nazi party during the war. Being a technocrat, or even communism, these all become pejoratives. In essence, they're not bad. People get involved in these movements and they decide the color of those parties, where that party goes. And notions in South Africa, experts from other countries who just squatted in South Africa and decided to relegate.
It would be called primitive. I mean, it's not accurate, but it's what he called them. He didn't believe that they should have the same status as everybody else, which is exactly what apartheid is. This is Haldeman on the left. That's his wife over there. I don't know who May is actually.
She's one of the twins.
In 1971, they all left and came to South Africa to settle. Hey, he's a chiropractor by trade. He may have been my mom's chiropractor during our time in South Africa. Here's his charges in Regina. His former chiropractor and head of the Regina branch of Technocracy Incorporated appeared in police court Saturday to answer 2 charges under the Defense of Canada regulations and $1,000 bails. Here's the other thing about Elon Musk and his fellow compadres at PayPal. There's a lot of South Africans involved, and before that, stand up because we all are like, whoa, blown away by the amount of wealth these guys have. Peter Thiel, technically not South African, but grew up in South Africa or in Southwest Africa, which was run by South Africa. Today, that's Namibia. David Sachs, born in South Africa, but left for Tennessee in the United States when he was 5, but definitely South African. Elon Musk, which we've spoken about. And then there's Roelof Botha. Roelof Botha is the managing partner, I think, maybe director, of Sequoia, the big Chinese-involved financial investment firm, venture firm, Sequoia Capital. And Sequoia is one of the biggest funders of all of Elon Musk's big companies, so everything from SpaceX to the Boring Company, but not Tesla for reasons I'll explain. But nevertheless, Roelof Botha is the reason he gets all that funding. Now, you might recall the name Roelof Botha because he is really quite well known in South African history. Roelof Botha is Pik Botha. That's the name of Pik Botha. Pik Botha was Roelof Botha's grandfather. And Roelof Botha's grandfather, well known during the whole apartheid regime. He's the guy on the right there with the mustache. Pik Botha. And on the left, there's P.W. Botha, the former president of South Africa, not very well liked by anybody. People always got the two confused. But Pik Botha is really quite for an apartheid racist. I had numerous interactions with him. Very affable, very lovely.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, in my days as a radio news anchor and editor at Radio 702, the only independent radio station in South Africa during the apartheid, this was my story. I know these guys well, and I know exactly what they were doing. I'm going to show you.
I love this. You're connecting some serious South African dots today.
I am. I'll tell you why. Because this Pik Botha is such a guy, such a character. Let's go back to the guys from the PayPal, because you got their background, and then I'll fill in exactly what Pik Botha did during his years inside and outside of government. So here's a more detailed look at what all these guys are related to South Africa. So Roelof Botha, we've discussed now, he's the venture capitalist of Sequoia Capital. He has over 1,000 projects in China, including prominent companies like ByteDance, who owns TikTok. Isn't that interesting connecting of a dot there that you can do? So he's massive in China. They've separated the companies to pretend they don't have anything to do with each other, the Chinese company and the American company, but they really still do. I'll show you all he's invested in for Elon Musk. Elon Musk's dad, Errol Musk, was involved in an emerald mine in Zambia. Keep mining in mines, it adds up to interesting things later on. Musk made his fortune based on those emeralds that his father gave him. David Sachs, South African, at 5 years old, he moves with his family to Tennessee to live in a South African community. And Tennessee is not exactly a non-racist place. No one chooses Tennessee. He's a real racist. This is a direct quote from him. I'm not sure if he was referring to this, but he said, "We were kicked out of our homeland. They burned down our temple. So we were scattered to the four corners of the globe, and we had to make new homes." So that's David Sachs, the new cryptocurrency czar in the White House.
The platform that's on is his platform. The platform Trump used to launch his $58 billion meme coin was on David Sachs' platform. Therefore, he gets the job as the czar of crypto and Bitcoin in the United States.
All make a fortune. All these guys make a fortune. They all hold so much crypto, which is, interesting because crypto is mine. Then there's Peter Thiel. Met him a couple of times. Interesting guy. His ideas on the world are really out there in a way that makes Musk seem sensible. Thiel's connected to South Africa through his father, who was a uranium miner. So they had a big, really well-known mine called Rossing in South Africa. I think it's called Rossing. In Namibia, the mine was a front mining uranium for South Africa's nuclear weapons development. With the help of the Chinese, they set up the uranium mining industry in South Africa. It became the fourth largest uranium mine in the world. The South Africans gave uranium to the Israelis, to the Chinese, to France, and to themselves. That's how they got their nuclear weapons. Peter Thiel, little known to the world. I've never read this about Peter Thiel's father. I knew he was a miner in South Africa, but I had no idea about the uranium mining thing. Because, the other person who was involved in the nuclear development industry in South Africa, the person who was sort of running that whole thing, was our favorite former foreign minister and then mining minister, Pik Botha, Roelof's grandfather. Well, this story.
You are really good. I know you know the story, and I know these guys knew each other and know each other. They all work together. But to know the origin of this story as it is playing out in the United States, they have captured the American monetary system, plan on getting rid of the Federal Reserve in exchange for gold, minerals, right? Gold, silver, etc., making crypto or Bitcoin or digital currency that finite amount of Federal Reserves. They want to replace their fiat money. They want to replace it all with Bitcoin, digital currency. They want to decentralize everything. These guys have had a 40-year fucking head start at it. Well, and the relationships that they have with China now makes so much more sense. And then you go back to the first part of the conversation that we just had. as you shed some light, I get goosebumps. You've done such a good job painting this picture for me. You go back to the first part of the conversation that we have about China and the United States and the relationships that are currently running the United States that prop up Donald Trump and Chinese involvement. That goes back decades. These guys have been fast partners. And the Sequoia angle with Rolav Bota, and I love how you say that because you're South African, so you say it sounds very authentic, Bota. That makes all the sense in the world now that Russia's on the back foot. That makes all the sense. And think about what a brilliant move by China to control of those relationships and then go,